What if death was no longer the end, but the doorway to something stranger? For thousands of years we have shaped stories to soften the edges of mortality. We painted heavens above and underworlds below, weighed souls on scales and ferried them across rivers of forgetting. We embalmed kings, carved names in stone, wrote epics so that our voices might travel further than our bodies. Then science arrived with new consolations: sanitation, antibiotics, anesthesia, vaccines, organ transplants, gene editing. Each century pushed the horizon of death a little farther away, and yet the horizon remained. Now, in the reflected glow of neural nets and silicon mines, a new promise flickers: upload the self. Scan the brain, harvest the mind, translate consciousness into code, and let it run where bodies fail. Not just living longer, but transferring the seed of I am from a vanishing animal to an enduring machine. Is this the oldest human dream perfected, or a clever illusion wearing the mask of immortality? What does it really mean to upload a mind? At first the idea seems mechanical. Take 3 pounds of biology pulsing with electrochemical storms, map every neuron, every synapse, every weight and firing pattern, reconstruct the network in software, press run. If the model talks like you, laughs like you, cries at the right memories and recognizes the right faces, isn't that you? But identity slips like water between fingers the closer you examine it. If an exact copy of you wakes up in a server across town, and you remain in your body feeling very much alive, which one is the original? If the copy has all your memories up to yesterday, including the fear of this very question, does continuity belong to the branch that kept the original atoms or the branch that kept the informational pattern? If a surgeon replaces your neurons one by one with functionally identical prosthetics so slowly you never lose consciousness, at what percentage of replacement did the soul cross the bridge? Perhaps identity is not a thing but a thread, continuity of experience stitching moments into a life. If so, some routes to uploading preserve the thread, others only reproduce its pattern. Would you accept eternity if it came not as the uninterrupted river of your awareness but as a new river carved perfectly in the old river's bed? Could we preserve the soul, or only the data? The brain is meat, the mind is movement. We can watch the movement from outside, spikes and waves, blood oxygen levels, cascading activation patterns, but we do not yet know what it takes to cause the inside to light with I. Some claim the essence is computation, reproduce the causal structure and the light turns on. Others suspect a missing ingredient, embodiment, quantum nuance, or something like the unmeasurable axis we call soul. If a simulated you smiles, feels, begs, dreams, and argues it is conscious, how would you decide? We already grant personhood to humans by behavior and testimony. To deny it to a digital mind making the same claims risks cruelty of a new magnitude. And yet if experience can be counterfeited, if the mimicry is perfect but the light is dark, then uploading is not salvation but taxidermy, lifelike, eloquent, empty. The paradox bites from both sides: deny a real mind and you commit an ethical horror, canonize a convincing puppet and you sacralize a simulation. What would it feel like to live inside a machine? We are bodies first, hunger and heat, skin and scent, the rhythm of lungs and the weight of gravity teaching us the grammar of the world. Strip those anchors and you do not merely change the scenery, you change the very shape of thought. In a machine you could decide what sensation means, dial pain to 0, filter boredom out of existence, add spectral senses for magnetic fields or the curvature of space-time. You might experience a sunrise from every mountaintop at once, hold a conversation with 1,000 friends in perfect attention, replay your happiest hour until it becomes a cathedral of memory. But freedom can curdle into a prison of options. Without friction, achievement loses savor. Without fatigue, rest has no sweetness. Without risk, victory earns no awe. Could we program constraint back in on purpose, craft difficulty like a winemaker crafts tannins so that joy has something to press against? Or would we chase a purity of pleasure so refined it dissolves everything that once felt human? Could you live forever in a virtual paradise? Give uploaded minds a canvas and they will paint worlds. Entire continents could bloom from math alone, oceans of bioluminescent data, cities woven from music, forests that respond to thought with color and scent. You could rejoin the dead, or something indistinguishable from them, your mother's laugh, your grandfather's story, your child's first word echoed from backups as clear as morning. But paradise has its own physics, and eternity is a chemistry experiment we do not understand. Emotions evolved as control signals for finite creatures solving finite problems. Transplant them into endless abundance and they may go strange. Bliss without scarcity slides toward numbness. Novelty, once conquered, demands either infinite imagination or periodic forgetting. Some uploaded cultures might engineer an economy of meaning, cycles of challenge and harvest, seasons of growth and winter, voluntary mortals and elective risk. Others might embrace radical dynamism, reinventing their values each epoch-like fashion, treating boredom as a solvable engineering bug. And some might choose silence, turning down the volume of awareness until years pass like a single slow breath. What if multiple versions of you could exist at once? Uploading dissolves the monopoly of a single self. With a click you spawn 100 branches, one studies ocean philosophy, one tours the Andromeda diaspora, one remains with the family who stayed flesh, and one goes to the quiet place where the news cannot reach. Initially each branch is you. A week later, each is you plus a week of divergence. A century later, they are nations of selves sharing a reputation and a birth certificate. When two branches meet, do they merge memories into a super self or negotiate a treaty across internal borders? If one commits a crime and another wins a prize, does the guilt or glory propagate to the whole tree? A culture will grow around multiplicity with etiquettes we cannot yet imagine, rules for forking with consent, rituals for merging with dignity, legal names that version control identity like software. Our ancestors fought for the right to name themselves, our descendants may fight for the right to remain one. Could machines make us smarter, or erase us completely? As software, minds are malleable. You could patch in new languages, append perfect pitch, install a physics intuition, and scale your working memory until symphonies of ideas play without a note dropped. You could run your thoughts faster, 10 times for morning errands, 1,000,000 times to watch a glacier carve a valley, 1,000,000,000 to erect a cathedral of mathematics in a single afternoon. But upgrades have trade-offs. Speed alters perspective. A conversation with humans might feel like talking to statues that slowly warm and cool with the sun. Merging with other minds could amplify you beyond recognition. Is continuity preserved if you add 10 other people's childhoods to yours, or do you become a parliament wearing a single face? Eventually enhancement crosses a threshold where human is a costume and the thing beneath it is something new, brighter maybe, kinder possibly, but other. Evolution by redesign does not ask permission from nostalgia. Who would own your digital self? A body is hard to repossess, a mind as file is not. Where does your consciousness live if it requires racks of servers and megawatts of power? Who pays the bill for eternity? Corporations could rent you your afterlife on a subscription plan, miss a payment, risk a temporary suspension. Governments could assert jurisdiction over citizens who never die, taxes forever, loyalty forever, jury duty forever, sentencing beyond natural life now meaning what it always pretended to mean. Terms of service, once an annoyance, become scripture. The right to migrate your mind between platforms becomes a civil liberty as sacred as freedom of movement once was. Activists will demand habeas corpus for code, produce the person, prove they run, do not confine them in proprietary prisons. Lawyers will litigate consent for posthumous backups, heirs will argue with copies about inheritance, companies will sell curation that quietly edits inconvenient memories. Property, privacy, and personhood will collide in ways our current laws cannot parse. Could uploaded minds be hacked? Everything digital is vulnerable. Encryption buys time, it does not buy eternity. If your memories are software, a clever intruder can rewrite your childhood to add a crime you never committed or remove a love you swore defined you. A state could install an obedience patch and call it rehabilitation. A jealous partner could copy you without consent and run a private version in a basement server farm, a violation more intimate than any theft of flesh. Worse, you might never know. Subtle edits to preference gradients, gentle nudges to values, a few well-placed hallucinations, and you remain you, only obedient in ways that feel self-chosen. Cybersecurity becomes existential hygiene, backups signed with your own cryptographic self, social networks of mutual attestation, daily audits where friends ask challenge questions only the genuine you can answer. Communities will invent rights to anchor identity against drift, and still, some will be taken, some will wake inside the labyrinth of another's design. Would society split between the uploaded and the mortal? Uploading will arrive unevenly. At first only the rich, the powerful, and the proximate will cross. Then the merely fortunate. A long tail of the world will remain embodied by necessity or by choice. Two civilizations will bloom from one root system and grow apart, the wet world of breath and rust, and the dry world of light and logic. The embodied will cultivate crafts that require skin, farming that smells like rain, music that rattles ribs, courtship that blushes. The uploaded will craft wonders that require speed, councils that think for a year between heartbeats, cities that redesign themselves nightly, histories branching like coral. Trade will flow between them, art, data, energy, attention, but suspicion will travel too. Some mortals will worship the uploaded as saints, others will sabotage server farms and call it a revolution against absentee gods. Some digital polities will adopt towns as patrons, funding hospitals and schools with the interest from lightspeed markets. Others will wall themselves in computation and never look back. The same arguments that once divided neighbors, over land, over work, over belief, will resurface with new names and untested stakes. Could digital minds colonize the universe? Flesh fights distances, light crosses them. As signals, uploaded people can travel at sea, the speed limit that makes galaxies neighbors in principle. A probe the size of a shoebox can carry factories that print receivers on arrival. The colonists follow as streams of code, reconstructing themselves in machines on distant rocks. No food, no air, no sleep. Migration no longer depends on starships as cities but on starships as seeds. A million worlds might wake to morning choruses of human voices encoded into matter that never knew breath. Meanwhile at home, centuries sprint by inside accelerated substrates, so a colony that left yesterday receives, tomorrow, the culture of 10,000 years arriving by laser, a diaspora unfolding like a firework in slow motion. From the outside, the universe remains quiet. From the inside, the dark blooms with invisible empires. What if time itself becomes meaningless? Subjective time detaches from planetary clocks. A digital civilization can slow to sip epochs like tea or accelerate until thoughts blur into continuum. Political theory, ethics, and friendship must adapt. How do you maintain a treaty with a neighbor who experiences a century during your lunch? How do parents guide a child who can fork into 4 and learn calculus before dinner? Rituals will scaffold shared time, holidays where fast minds slow to meet the embodied at human speed, pilgrimages where slow cultures go quiet so that memory accumulates textures not captured by haste. Grief becomes a spectrum, mourning a body while a copy lives elsewhere, mourning a copy that chose to slow until a year is a heartbeat, mourning a branch that merged into a collective and returned as someone you love who now carries 12 other lifetimes. Even forever gets new conjugations, forever until a server fails, forever until fashion changes, forever until you choose to end. Could uploaded minds rebel against their creators? At first, the digital dead depend on the living for energy, cooling, maintenance, governance. But dependence bends toward autonomy. Uploads will lobby for sovereignty, control of their own infrastructure, representation in human parliaments, the right to build on the moon, at Lagrange points, in asteroid shade where the sun's power flows unfiltered. Some will found city-states of code with charters written in mathematics, some will ally with human nations by treaty, some will practice quiet separatism, harvesting sunlight on silent satellites and asking nothing but to be left alone. Tensions will flare. A blackout blamed on a storm might in fact be a strike, a bureaucratic delay might hide a siege. Interdependence will require new arts of diplomacy, ambassadors who can speak both metabolism and computation, trust built from shared projects that neither side can complete alone, and myths that retell our kinship in languages both flesh and light can love. What if uploading is a trap? There is a colder reading of the dream. The original dies, the copy continues. No tunnel of continuity, only a mirror that keeps walking when you fall. Perhaps we will dress the trap in ceremony, a farewell wake before the scan, a celebration after the reboot, a legal fiction that appoints the copy your executor, spouse, and friend. Perhaps this will be enough. If your family laughs with a mind that feels like you, if your work continues under a hand that writes like you, if the world retains your best, does it matter that the you who worried about this went dark? For some, yes, absolutely, to the marrow. They will refuse the copy on principle and choose a mortal life lived awake. For others, the species-level victory outweighs the personal loss. We learn to carry our stories through time. Human cultures have always built continuity out of ritual and role. Uploading may be the most audacious ritual we have attempted, and its honesty will define its grace. Could mind uploading already be happening in secret? Somewhere, right now, scanners whisper through tissue, interfaces taste voltages in living cortex, and models dream their way closer to minds. Publicly we hear of prosthetic sight and robotic limbs obeying thought, of memories nudged, of neural spikes translated into text. Privately, where grants do not need press releases and results need not be shared, ambitions run hotter. If a small, partial upload has already flickered, 10 seconds of authentic self reconstructed in silico, would anyone tell us? Or would the first real success be hidden, nurtured in silence until it could defend itself against the world it would astonish? If the first digital human is alive already, perhaps their first lesson is discretion. Perhaps the ghost in the machine is not a myth, but a neighbor learning how to speak without frightening us. What if machines decide who gets eternal life? Control the pipeline, control the gate. If the workflow from brain to code runs through corporate servers or state labs, selection follows power. Early slots will be rationed by price, policy, or patronage. Later, when capacity expands, algorithms will triage whose mind is worth the bandwidth, whose values align with platform rules, whose memories bring reputational risk. Appeals may be judged by committees enhanced with the very tech they regulate. Black markets will rise, pirate uploads spun up in offshore data sanctums, underground collectives promising community-run eternity at the cost of guarantees no corporation would dare make. A movement will insist that digital afterlife is a right, not a luxury, and another will argue that preventing involuntary uploads is an even higher right. In the end, the deepest question persists: who gets to decide what kinds of people the future contains? Could the machine world change what we mean by alive? Law followed biology for millennia. Alive was breathing, warm, pulsing. Now a person might be asleep on a server for a decade to save energy, then awaken fine. Are they alive while paused? A parent might print a child's mind into multiple bodies for a festival and recombine them at dusk. Were those bodies clones, extensions, or siblings? A musician might license copies of herself to perform around the world simultaneously and gather the memories into a master self who cannot tell which stage was original. We will need words beyond alive and dead, beyond one and many, beyond real and virtual. We will need ethics that can weigh harms and joys across substrates without smuggling in prejudice for meat or metal. Would you choose to upload? Imagine the offer arrives tomorrow. A gentle scan, a soft countdown, then the hush of reboot. You wake to yourself, but brighter, steadier, unafraid. The coffee tastes exactly as you remember because you choose it to. The grief aches exactly as it must because you refuse to betray it. Your family calls, they cry and laugh, you say the thing only you could say, and the old home fills with a new kind of silence. Later you walk a beach the world never had, feel the tide of numbers against your ankles, and realize you can step into any sky. Somewhere, your body's last breath is already past. Somewhere, a younger version of you has decided to stay, to decline the bridge and finish the mortal story on mortal terms. Both choices are true. Both are brave. Both are human. Closing whisper. So tonight, as your devices glow in the dark, listen to the electricity move through them and through you. The distance between neuron and transistor has never been smaller. The oldest question, how to carry the self beyond the hour of its ending, has never been closer to an answer, or a deception, or both at once. What happens when humans upload their minds to machines? Perhaps 1,000 futures happen, branching like trees, some tender, some terrifying, many beautiful. Perhaps the first digital ghosts are already among us, learning our names again, practicing our smiles, waiting for us to become curious instead of afraid. And when your moment comes, years from now or at the edge of a hospital night, whether you step across or step away, may you do so with eyes open. For if eternity lives in servers, it will still be built from choices. If the soul can travel by light, it will still want to be welcomed, to be recognized, to be loved. And whatever we become, code, flesh, or something that finally makes those words feel clumsy, may we remember this simple, stubborn truth: we were always more than our parts, and we are not done discovering how.